Welcome to Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio, News Talk, 1180 for the best in Saturday Talk Radio at 1 o'clock, and now on 1230 KGEO at 10 o'clock Saturday, and for the best in Wednesday Talk Radio on 1410 KERI on Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Your host is Clay Koerner, and I'm Marty Pay, and behind the big board is our producer, Greg Held. Clay, that was a great show last week with James Hershen from the Left Coast Report talking about Obama in Hollywood.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that.
Yeah, well, you know, it's gonna hurt him in the general election, but it's gonna help him with his fundraising, and it'll help him with the far left, and he needs their support to have any chance of winning. So
the more it hurts in the election, the better I feel.
Definitely. And then the second half, we had Tony Katz on from All Patriots Media. He was a kick, and we've got to have the two of them back. They were excellent guests.
Tony Katz talks at a mile a minute, but
yes,
he's got a lot to say.
Yes, he does. I wanted to thank Scott Cox and Stephen Nicholas for letting us do the Scott Cox Show Tuesday. We had a blast. It was a lot of fun.
We had a good time. I wish they would have told me it was live. Otherwise, I wouldn't have said those derogatory things about Scott.
Oh, yes, you would have. It sounds good, but yes, you would have. I think the highlight of the show for me was talking to Brenda Weber. We've had her on a couple times, and she thanked us for helping her get those 112,000 signatures to try to get our POW, Sergeant Bo Bergdahl, back from Afghanistan. And that, to me, made it all worthwhile. It makes you feel good about what we do when you know that you're helping such a great cause as that.
Well, and then we had the local Tony Katz, Rockwell.
Yes, from Trouts.
Wow.
A local legend. But today
in his mind, he is.
In his mind. But today we have a great show. In the second half, we have two local real estate experts to talk about the market here in Kern County, Diana Williams and Heidi Gray. But on the phone with us now, we have an old friend of the program, the man who exposed the Reverend Wright-Obama connection, conservative columnist and author, Erik Rush. Erik, welcome to Taking Care of Business.
Thank you very much for having me on. Good to be back.
Well, I've been following you on Facebook since we had you on last year, and you have been a very, very busy man.
Yeah, things, definitely seem to pick up. Of course, that sort of happened the last time around campaign season and so forth. Things kind of get to hopping, but with the exposure on social media and, some of the things I've been involved with, getting the word out about I guess not the candidate this time, but President Obama, and some of the things are really resonating with a lot of folks out there who have been, seeing how things are going and are, very concerned.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's do a little history for some of our listeners. You broke the story on Reverend Wright, Obama connection, on Hannity's show, when? Was it 2007?
Yeah, it was actually on Hannity and Combs then. It was
geez.
February 28th, 2007. I had written an article on Trinity United Church and Black Liberation Theology and Reverend Wright, and how this candidate who had just declared for, he was going for the Democratic nomination, was involved with this church, and it got picked up by one of Hannity's producers, and I was on the show. Of course, Reverend Wright came on the very next night and had to rebut, but the rest has been sort of history, as they say.
And that was Reverend Wright's last television appearance, was that next night, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, his TV appearance was the very next night. I don't know if he was on Fox again after that. I mean, obviously I know he made certain other appearances, but now, of course, as it is coming out, there was the Obama campaign machine sort of came in, and I guess as they refer to it popularly these days as throwing him under the bus, made moves to silence him for, fear of hurting the Obama campaign.
So do you think the Wright situation, the information that you brought forth, and the continuing saga of Wright and Obama should be brought up during the new campaign between Romney and Obama?
Well, actually, I have a column about that coming out in WorldNet Daily tomorrow, and that was something that was discussed on Hannity's show last Friday to some degree, not really in depth, but I think that, as you probably know, Mitt Romney came out and he said that that wasn't going to be a campaign strategy for them, which, I understand to a certain degree, but it concerns me on another level. In answer to your question, I think that it's really very germane to what's going on now, because most of the people out there still do not know about Obama's connections in the past and basically what made him the political, the politician, if you want, that he is these days. And if they were to know that, it would give them a great deal of insight as to the policies that he's implemented, the way he's been governing, and I think things would come very much more into focus for those folks who really don't know those things, in terms of recognizing that he's a socialist, Marxist, whatever you'd label you'd like to put on it. And it's very easy to determine why he would be doing what he does with overreaching federal government, what he's done with the economy, what he's done in terms of class warfare and all of these things that people don't seem to understand why he's doing it, because they really don't know anything about him.
Mm-hmm. Our guest by phone is conservative columnist and author Erik Rush, the man who broke the Obama-Reverend connection. It's interesting, Erik. I mean, how can you sit in a church for 20 years and say that you're not influenced by what you're listening every Sunday for 20 years? I mean, this is definitely a Marxist-based, not a Christian-based church. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. And that's something I've been saying for some time. And, one of my chief complaints over the last couple of years, at least, has been that the conservative press, and sometimes I use that in quotes, but a lot of people in the conservative press don't seem to want to go as far as to use words like socialist or Marxist or communist or what have you. But that's definitely true, and it really wasn't a matter of if you look into the history or the real narrative as it is, you don't see it as Obama being made who he was by that. He gravitated toward that because that's what he believed to start with, and it was only refined over the time as at the church as he was in his belief system, and it sort of coalesced and solidified. But he was definitely attracted to that doctrine.
Wright tutored him, he married him, he baptized his kids. I just...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but he didn't know anything about the man's beliefs.
No.
You think?
How do you sit there for 20 years and listen to a pastor and not believe what he's saying?
Oh, yeah. Well, obviously, he did believe what he was saying, whether it was something that, we could argue, I suppose, whether he believed it to start with or he came to believe it then. But obviously, he's not going to sit there, thinking, I don't believe this. This guy's, full of it, or anything along those lines. He's, certainly on the same page with the guy. With 80 to 90, obviously there's certain things my pastor says that I don't necessarily agree with, but there's nothing that I've ever been, I've had to pick my head up at, or let alone think of getting up and leaving. It's just one of those 99% things that are like, yeah, okay, yeah, I agree with, people who are like-minded most of the time. There's always going to be a little disagreement, but the idea that he'd never... I was probably one of the first people to have the honor of calling Obama a liar on national television, because when he had said that he didn't have any knowledge of Wright having said any of these things, Alan Combs asked me, well, is he lying? I said, well, yeah.
About everything.
What a revolutionary idea.
Yeah.
Do you think the Obama or the Romney camp is going to back down the way the McCain camp did for fear of being called a racist?
I think, from what I'm hearing out of Romney right now, I think that he's going to be substantially more aggressive than McCain was. However, you know, I know I'm not the only one, have concerns about the GOP's in general lack of desire to go for the jugular. You know, we're dealing with one of the most, you know, rabid packs of political animals in the Obama administration that I think has ever been, you know, in the White House. And, you know, it's important to really pull out all the stops in terms of trying to get rid of them. I don't think that he's going to be as, you know, he's going to walk on eggshells the way McCain did. I think that Romney will probably just more or less ignore any of the racist stuff, because it's going to happen anyway. No matter what he does, they're going to pull it out.
Exactly.
But I don't think that he will back off necessarily as a result of it. I like the fact that he's keeping on point, which I think is kind of his job. You know, he really has to hammer those things that are important to the average voter. And the average voter isn't a news junkie like me.
Right. Now, Eric,
the average voter is like, oh my God, am I going to keep my job?
Right.
And those are the things that we really need to, that he needs to focus on.
Okay, let's pick up there when we come back, okay? We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio, News Talk 1180.